Welcome to The Fix with me, Karima Brown. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa pledged to continue his commitment to fight state capture and corruption in the State of the Nation address. Many South Africans, however, are demanding swifter justice. On Wednesday, 30 organizations called on the President to make this the year of the orange overalls and bemoaned the fact that no one has been prosecuted for state capture, which cost South Africa billions with devastating consequences for our economy and the ability to, of course, deliver basic goods and services. To talk about this, I am joined by the Deputy General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, Mr. Mapaila, and also Constitutional Court Judge, former Constitutional Court Justice Johan Kriegler. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining me here on The Fix. Now, before we get into the issues around corruption, let's listen to President Ramaphosa and the issues that he highlighted around corruption in his State of the Nation address.
The Zondo Commission into state capture continues with its critical work with the full support of the government and other institutions. I have received a detailed and voluminous report on the Commission of Inquiry into the Public Investment Corporation. I will make it available to the public together with a plan on taking the findings and recommendations forward in a few days. Now, as we fix the fundamentals, as we deepen the reforms we have made, we pursue a number of areas of inclusive growth.
That is, of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa stating his commitment to fight corruption. Justice Johan Kriegler, this morning Sunday Times has a very disturbing story on its front page. It says the public protector is now going to try and stop the Zondo Commission in its tracks. Does she have a case legally to do so?
I'm not sure that I agree with the story. I've read it. I think it may be just a little bit alarmist, although good news, but good newspaper work. Not necessarily, I agree with it. If the public protector interferes with the Zondo Commission, she is clearly acting against the public interest. The Zondo Commission has a massive agenda that it knows it's trying to cut it down. I don't think it needs any assistance or any interference from the public protector. If she wants to interfere, I doubt the motives behind it, quite frankly.
Mr. Mapaila, are you nodding in agreement with Justice Johan Kriegler?
Yeah, I fully agree that it will be impossible actually to achieve objectives in that regard. In any case, even if she tries illegal, I don't think she can stop the commission at this point in time. In any case, many things that have happened there, because you must remember this is a judicial commission. A lot of things that have happened there can still be taken forward, even if she can stop, but she has no prospect of success, in my view.
Now, just to stay with you, we know, Mr. Mapaila, that there are quite advanced efforts to look at how one removes a Section 29, rather a Chapter 9 institution head, in this instance specifically Busisiwe Mkhwebane, from office. Is this an attempt by her to derail this process, do you think?
Well, I would say partly yes, because I think there's no doubt that she is a feisty person, but on the side or not of the public, not of the public interest. You know that we at long called for a judicial, a parliamentary inquiry in a fitness to hold office, so that we think she has been acting on behalf of other interests. And we have based that on a number of judgments, of reviews of reports. And I think when you see some of the comments, even from some of the members of the public protector offices in different provinces who are scathing about her conduct, shows that we're partly right. So, but I don't think that she will definitely have acted in her own defense in that regard to try and create more space and time so that she can delay that process as much as possible.
In fact, Justice Kriegler, I've just received a notice here. It says it's a notice to the Speaker of the House, Thandi Modise, and it's a request for a parliamentary investigation into the conduct of the Public Protector, and it comes from the provincial representative of the Public Protector in the Free State. It says that I am addressing this letter to you requesting your intervention and investigation into the conduct of the Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, and the financial mismanagement in the Public Protector. Now, this is, of course, a massive blow to the National Public Protector's Office, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and it's right that it comes from the Free State, where somehow Mr. Mkhwebane managed to go to Vrede and found nothing. She didn't even see a dead cow, let alone the footprints of certain politicians. So it's very, very encouraging. It shows that there are people of integrity and courage within the office, notwithstanding this deadly blanket from above.
Now, there has been a call from over 30 organizations for this to be the year of the public orange overalls. Now, this call was, of course, made by the Anglican Archbishop, Mr. Makgoba, and he did so during his sermon during, the end of last year. Your take on the fact that we haven't seen one arrest yet of people that should at the very least be indicted to answer in a court of law?
Karima, I'm a bit between a rock and a hard place. I realize how extremely difficult it is to prosecute an involved case of corruption, particularly where you have money trails to follow, where people, cunning, shrewd criminals have covered their tracks. It's very difficult. I also realize that there's a grave risk if you try to prosecute too soon, if you go off half-cocked, you get evil people being acquitted and actually having a moral victory. On the other hand, I share the impatience, the discomfort of the public, and I do believe that there is a reason to say to the Public Prosecution Service, the NPA, please, if you cannot get going immediately, tell us why not. Do what Eskom did a week or two ago, is take the public into your confidence, tell them what the problems are that you're facing, tell them what help you need, tell them how far you're going and that you've got a plan. Put our minds at rest. I think that must be done.
Mr. Mapaila, do you agree?
I fully endorse this framework because it's quite frustrating. We have been in the forefront of the fight against corruption, and we continue to lose our members who have been killed for fighting corruption. And when there's nothing coming out, it's as if the system doesn't care. And I think that's why this campaign for Orange Overall is important, and we're endorsing it. We participated in the launch of the campaign on Wednesday, and we'll continue to work with all other organizations to make sure that individuals specifically are being prosecuted. But one other thing that I think we're missing is the fact that the National Prosecuting Authority itself has been deeply corrupted during the state capture process. So this point is very critical, because you can then have cases that come to court in order to defeat the objective of justified prosecution, so that you can't repeat the same cases back in court. I think the judge can explain proper in that regard. Otherwise, it will become a mischievous prosecution.
Absolutely, and the Americans call it double jeopardy, isn't it? You can't be trying someone for the same thing twice. And also, obviously, the integrity of the institution is consistently, brought into question. And this creates the chasm of trust that the public ought to have in the criminal justice system.
And it encourages the other crooks still in the woodwork, that if you keep a low enough profile, you can also get away with it. No, it is a serious problem, and it's not only in the NPA. It's a complex situation. Investigators, police, Special Investigation Unit, the Hawks, they all lack sufficient staff, and they all have this problem that you don't know who within your ranks is on your side and who isn't. It's a serious problem.
It's a precarious situation for someone like Shamila Batoy to be in, for Godfrey Lebeer to be in, for all the new heads that the president appointed following the years of capture, Mr. Mapaila. I've noticed of the 30 organizations attached to the campaign around bringing people to book, the South African Communist Party is actually the only political party that has endorsed this campaign. So kudos for you on that. Why was it important for the SACP as a political organization that's in an alliance with the African National Congress to endorse this campaign that we need swifter justice and that we need people brought to book?
Well, the SACP launched an anti-corruption campaign in 2010 as the first political organization to launch, not just talk about it, a massive national campaign. And that's where, for instance, we have lost many of our comrades in this field. That's why also in their memory, we cannot allow this campaign to fail. But now we're getting too frustrated, like all of us, because those who are living on the proceeds of corruption in the midst of economic crisis, have made the majority who believe in justice to be so despondent that they think actually corruption pays, because people live in better lives and they are living in poverty. And they know this, those who stole money, even from the poor people, the elderly, their pension money, their stockful money in Venda, in VBS, in Limpopo, are still living large. And they can understand why there can't be a simple prosecution. We actually even marched to the provincial commissioner in Polokwane of Limpopo to ask him to make sure that he's taking concrete action. Believe it or not, when we were marching there was another mob, organized, well organized, fully clad in T-shirt, that came to march against us, actually prevented us for a long time until the police intervened. So this is that's the reason why, as a party, we endorse this campaign by this NGOs.
Judge, I'm going to give you the final word on this matter. You were nodding your head quite a bit whilst Mr. Mapaila was speaking. It shows us that for every action we take to reform the state and to bring about justice, there are people very determined to prevent that from happening.
No doubt about it. But at the same time, what we also see this morning is that Solly and I can be here together. We come from opposite poles politically. We come from opposite poles ethnically. We're concerted together. We're on first name terms long since in our fight with all honest South Africans against corruption. I'm a little optimistic this morning.
Well, gentlemen, continue with your good work. Up next, we take a look at the stories making headlines in the weekend newspapers. Stay with us.